and it'll be available probably sometime tonight. So tonight I'm really thrilled to talk about briefly the man standing next to me. Of course, you know him. He's a well-known actor with many movies, including The Paper Chase and The Last Picture Show, which my coworker Paul called the finest American film in the last 50 years. The memorable line was, "He was sweeping you sons of bitches," embedded themselves in the film lexicon. My childhood remembers him as the terrorist in the disaster film Roller Coaster. He had perhaps, well, I'm still going to therapy over this. He had perhaps the best death scene of my childhood. And I know it's not your fault, but there was a song, I think, by these characters and thing. I think it was like, "Hello, my yogi, hello, my boo-boo, hello, my Scooby-Doo." Yeah, I'm still going to therapy over that one, too. However, the Pier, we're here to talk about the Pier tonight. It's Timothy's first foray into the book world. He's a Central Coast resident. It's a wonderful book, but don't take my word for it. Take the word of the person on the back by the name of Gail Steinbeck, who is married to Tom Steinbeck, whose father was, of course, John Steinbeck. Timothy James Bottoms has written a love letter to Santa Barbara. While he may be best known for his award-winning performances in front of the camera, do not be misled into thinking for even a moment that he is a lightweight as a writer. Mr. Bottom's deft hand has spun a lovely coming-of-age story that will hold you spellbound. His sense of place, as well as descriptions of sound, the visuals, and the narrative, will carry you along on the journey of a little boy as he grows into a big boy over just one day. Okay, I lost my place here. The Pier is so well done that I could hear the sounds of the gulls fighting over bait, smell the salt-filled fog that surrounded the pier, all while feeding the same trepidation I felt the first time I journeyed out alone. The Pier is a marvelous yarn that will take you back to your own special days of growing up in this perfect place. It is the best Sunday read I have found in a very long time. Please welcome Timothy Bottoms.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Great Spirit for bringing us all together. I also want you to know, an hour ago my mother died.
Oh.
So the first thing I'm going to read is about her. I'll start right now.
Wow.
She just passed. So, the Pier, a fisherman's story. 4 years old, Carpinteria, holding a stick and some kelp, learning the art and patience of fishing. Dedication. This story is dedicated to my grandfather, who taught me the art and patience of fishing, and to his son, my father, who after the death of my grandpa continued to share his knowledge and love of the sport and the ocean with me. And to my mother, who gave me permission and trusted me enough at 8 years old to spend the entire day alone on the pier. Now, this is my story. Some of it happened and some of it only in my imagination. Remember that part. Tall tales fishing stories are the ones that got away and the ones I landed. It is many experiences over several years taking place all in one day, one glorious, beautiful day. Not that long ago, I was 8 years old and the pier was my most favorite place in the whole world, or at least all the world I knew. The pier left the pavement where it met the boulevard, and on pilings and timbers it rose above the sand, over the waves, out to the horizon, ending at the breakwater and harbor mouth. There I would sit fishing, watching the boats and seabirds in flocks and in pairs come and go. Now the pier has changed over the years. The quantity and species of fish have changed or have simply disappeared. The old buildings, some destroyed by fires, others simply no longer able to stay in business, have changed. Familiar faces and characters are all gone now, but the pier remains, and the memories flood over me of days of innocence, youth, that and the great Pacific Ocean. I return there for walks to think about life's endless changes, and sitting at the end of the pier looking down into the water at life clinging to the pilings, I see the flash of fins, tails of fish. I see my reflection far below. My hair is gray, and as I stare at my face undulating on the surface of the ocean, old memories shroud around me. And I remind myself of those older fishermen in my yesterdays who waited patiently for that one big fish. I catch the flash of a distant memory as a boy again, and so a story to tell. 1959, an old California coastal town. The old Plymouth station wagon pulled up to the curb, and the fog was so wet that the windshield wipers were slapping the glass. I was 8 years old. I was excited about spending the entire day on the pier. I was sitting in the back seat, surrounded by large bags of soiled laundry. I had to climb on top to see through the windows, but they were pretty much steamed up from all the heat in the car. My mom drove while entertaining my little brothers who were on the floor crawling around on the seat beside her. And when the car stopped, my mother put her right arm out to keep my little brothers from sliding off the seat into the dashboard. I slipped down between several bags but stood quickly. My heart was pounding, and there was silence. And the foghorn on the pier and the breakwater bellowed seconds apart. My little brother's eyes bulged. What's that? We all stared out the windows at the entrance to the pier. It was thick, wet fog surrounded the pier. Mom put it in neutral and smiled at me in the rearview mirror. Now have fun, be careful, and don't go under the pier. She opened her purse, removed some lipstick, started to smooth it on her lips. All the time she was watching me in the rearview mirror. I started to gather my gear, opened the door. Joe jumped up, turned around. Well, I want to go. I want to go fishing too. My mother had to grab him by the seat of his pants or he would have fallen out the door. No, don't worry, Mom, I said. She gently pulled Joe toward her, placed him back in the seat beside her. She had her hands full with us boys. Joe was 5, Sam was 3. I think it was a relief to have me doing something today. Anyway, she gave me permission to spend the day on the pier fishing. She would be down the street at the laundry where she would start the clothes and take Joe and Sam to the public little kids pool across the street. The big pool was next door. The plunge, we called it. On hot summer days, this was the place to cool off with friends. Anyway, Mom could see the pier from there. I could see the pool from the harbor side of the pier. Now, I was 8. She was my mom, so it was too good to see where she was. I could tell she was worried. Don't worry, Mom, I'll be fine. She had only 2 hands. 3 monkeys for sons was a lot for any mom. Now, did you pack a lunch? It's in my tackle box, Mom. No, be right down at the laundry if you need me, at the pool if the sun comes out. Okay, Mom. We'll meet you here after Dad finishes work. Well, what time is that, Mom? About 5:30. I opened the door. Oh, can I have a quarter for the popcorn man? I want a quarter. I want a quarter too, Mom. Joe had a big voice. Could be very loud when he wanted his way. She put something in his hand which went straight into his mouth and shut him up, and Sam was quiet. He just watched. She opened her purse, found a quarter, put it in my hand. Oh, thanks, Mom. Bye, Mom. I was out the door, turned to gather my pole and tackle box. Now, I love you, she said, and I mean it. Don't you go under the pier, and you stay away from those bums. Putting the coin in my jeans, I waved goodbye. I stood there in the early morning fog, watched as she drove down the Palm Line Boulevard, splashing puddles in the street. Slowly, the back of the Plymouth disappeared in a wisp of fog. I was glad my sweatshirt had a hood because the fog was so thick it felt almost like rain. The call of the gulls, distant moan of the foghorn, smells excited and called to me. As I slowly started to walk from the sidewalk out onto the pier, glancing down to my sneakers, I noticed one of my laces was undone, so I kneeled, started to tie it. Voices from a grove of palms caught my attention. Finishing the bow, I stood, began to walk up the pier. The constant drip of moisture off the palm made an eerie sound as I got closer. Cardboard, empty bottles were strewn on the ground. Smell of tobacco mixed with wood smoke and the faint tones of a harmonica drifted over me. A dark opening into the Grove Grotto had a well-worn path, but I didn't dare go any further, at least not alone. This was where the bums, the homeless men, lived. Years earlier, my father had carried me on his shoulders through the hobo village near the slough. I remember the jingle of change in his pocket as he offered coins to the old fellows who needed a handout. It was just down the beach, a mile or 2. Small town of men who rode the rails. Now, most of these gentlemen were kind, but once drunk, they could be unpredictable. That's when the murmur of conversation grew loud and the music stopped. Now, I was warned to stay away from these people, and I quickened my pace towards the pier, but the fog was so soupy, I soon became disoriented. I could hear a motor approaching and the sound of wheels on the groaning wooden planks as a truck came into view out of the mist. I could feel the thumping vibration from the weight of its load. And jumping up onto the sidewalk as the big truck passed, I felt a shower of salt water and sardine spray wash over me like a wave. A truck filled with boxes of sardines. Seagulls flew overhead, and some even landed on the truck, pecking and trying to pull fish from the load. The last big bump threw a few fish as the truck stopped before crossing the boulevard. Dropping my gear before the gulls could swoop down, I dove into a puddle in the middle of the street, grabbing at the sardines. Sardines are beautiful fish, with forked tails, silver scales, blue spots. Each fish was about 8 inches long and fat. I had fish in my hands before I even put a hook in the water. I laughed at my good fortune. With this prize in my hand now, I had bait for my day of fishing. Oh, this was my lucky day. I just knew the luck was with me. Problem was, I was sitting in water trying to hold 3 slippery sardines when this big old gull landed just outside the ring of water I was sitting in. He looked me over, walked slowly around me, just waiting for me to foul up, drop one. Gull circled above my head as the truck jammed gears and drove on, taillights fading into the fog. Slowly, with one eye on the gull, one eye on the prize in my hands, I tried to stand. One slipped from my grasp, and that old gull was on it, into the air in a wink. He looked over his wing at me, adjusted his tail feathers, and was gone into the mist. Well, I was wet, but I still had 2 fish. Yes, this was my lucky day. I knew I was going to catch something big. I turned to gather my fishing gear when a large man stepped from the palms. I'll take those, Sonny. I stood frozen, scared. This man was huge, with big gray beard, long hair, a brown stained coat that covered his body. He was wearing a big floppy hat, spoke with the butt of a cigar in the corner of his mouth. The large man was swaying back and forth as he spoke. Sonny, this is my spot. And I've been waiting for that truck to hit that bump to get those fish. They going on my grill, so hand them over, Sonny.
Oh, wow.
I was petrified. I mean, this man wasn't mean. He was just so big and smelly. I slowly held the 2 sardines up to him. His giant hands took the fish from me, and only then did the sardines seem small. Why, thank you, Sonny. Good luck. Hey, if you catch any fish you don't want, I'll take them. I stood still as the man turned, bent down under the palm fronds, returning to his camp. Sounds of laughter, harmonica music, the crackle of a fire, and he was gone. I was sopping wet, smelled like fish, and had not even stepped onto the pier yet. I just shook my head, thinking how fast things changed. Quickly grabbed my gear, and as fast as I could, I ran towards the pier into the fog. When I was a safe distance from the street, I stopped. My heart was pounding, and I swallowed to catch my breath. I heard the sound of the water on the shore, and moving to the edge, I peered over the rail. I was at that point over the sand where the sea meets the shore. The sea was calm. My fear disappeared as quickly as it had come. Oh, this would be a good day for fishing. No swells to cloud the water. The old black man said, "Now run on." He walked out to the center. We walked out to the center of the pier. How do I get on? Just climb up and sit here, and I'll hold the bars, but let me steer. Jose held the bike still while I climbed up and sat sideways on the crossbar, and then with a push, we were off. Jose pedaled, and we both held the handlebars. Small afternoon breeze and the speed of the bike cooled us in the heat of the late afternoon. Flags were snapping on the poles, and pigeons and gulls flew up in our path and sailed along beside us. We were flying over the water. The rhythm and the sound of the bike over the planks and the speed was exhilarating. I had never gone that fast on a bike. Past the sardine conveyor, past the shell ship and the tackle store. The halibut fishermen were gone, and only one lone fisherman, a woman who had 2 poles in the water and was sitting in a folding chair doing some knitting. A little further on, one pole was leaning on the rail with no one around, and the line was out in the water. And just as we passed, it started to bounce. Something was on it, and no one was around. Both Jose and I saw it at the same time. Jose stopped. I jumped off the bike and ran over to the pole, looking for the owner. What do we do? I asked. The pole was violently flopping on the deck now. When we looked over the edge, but the fish could not be seen. I grabbed the pole and adjusted the drag. It was an old pole, and the reel was old. The line was cloth, and the pole was missing an eye, but it worked. Immediately, the fish took out line. Bzzz. The memory of Bill's pole falling from my hands made me grip the pole tighter. This pole would not drop into the water. The woman stopped her knitting and looked at us. "Hey, that's somebody's pole, Tim." Jose had a worried look on his face. "Well, if we don't hold it, it'll flop into the water or the line will snap." There I was, with a fish on the line, holding another man's pole again, twice in one day. Well, I'll ask that lady up there if she knows whose pole it is, he said, and he raced his bike up the pier. I had watched Bill most of the day and had learned a lot just by watching, so everything Bill had done, I tried to imitate. I used the drag. Keep the tip up, and keep the fish away from the pilings, I said to myself out loud. The fish bent the pole and the drag sang, and when the fish stopped, I reeled in the slack. I could see Jose talking with the lady, and soon he was back at my side, winded. She said that the man walked down towards the street. Maybe he's using the bathroom or getting something from the popcorn man. She said he had on a red shirt. You want me to look for him? Fish made a run. Holy cow, this is pretty big, whatever it is. It snapped the line for sure if we just left it alone, I said. Jose jumped up on the rail, trying to get a glimpse of the fish on the line. Well, what do you think it is? From the fight, it was bigger than the mackerel I had caught that morning and bigger than the little halibut Bill let go. It's no bonita, Jose said, his eyes glued to the water. Being this close to shore and with that setup on the bottom, it had to be a bottom fish. Sand shark maybe, or stingray, or a halibut, I said, whispering like Bill. Fish moved up the pier, and so did I. And when the fish moved down the pier, I followed, Jose at my side. See that fellow with the red shirt yet? Anybody with a red shirt? I said as I kept my attention on the line. Jose kept an eye out. The fish had yet to show itself, but I knew what it was. Halibut. I could tell from the fight, the run, the periodic stop, the shake. It was a halibut for sure, and more than likely a keeper. Trouble was, it was someone else's fish. At least it was on someone else's pole. Now, we were close to shore, and a small wind was making 1 to 2 foot waves on the beach. Not a far walk, perhaps 100 or so yards from the shore. We were only in about 10 feet of water, but the small swell clouded the visibility. Fish made a run, and I started to tighten the drag, reeling in. The shape came to the surface. It's a halibut, Jose yelled with excitement. The fish glided to the surface, trying to dislodge the hook on the edge of its lip by opening its mouth and shaking its head from side to side. As it came to the surface, it smacked its tail, leaving only the splash as it quickly disappeared to the bottom in the safety of the sand. I was lucky that time. I remember Bill saying that it was a sure way to lose a flatty. Once on top, flatty had enough power, slapping its tail to jerk the hook out of its mouth or snap the line. So we slowly walked 100 or so yards down the pier, keeping the fish from going under the wharf and getting wrapped up on a piling or cutting a line on mussels. Soon we were over the small waves. Still, nobody in a red shirt. I was thinking what I would say and then politely hand the pole over to the owner, but secretly, I was hoping he wouldn't show. At least not until we landed the flatty. The fish sensed the shore and made a run for open ocean, but was tiring. It was about a 10-foot drop to the sand from the pier. Jose, hold the pole. I'll jump down, and then you hand it to me. With that, I crawled over the edge and hung for a while. I was having second thoughts. I was swinging in the breeze from the edge of the pier. What am I doing? I hesitated for a second. Jose was fighting the fish, and I was hanging off the pier and looking down at the sand. It was further than I thought, and I got myself in a pickle now. I could smell the creosote, and the hot tar was starting to burn my hands. Jump! I'll pass you the pole. Jump! You better jump before the guy comes looking for his pole. I looked up at Jose, and that big smile on his face. Pole bent over the line, tight as the fish fought the hook just beyond the breakers. I closed my eyes, let go of my grip, and dropped. Tim! You okay? I was on my back, sand warm and soft. The wind knocked out of me. I just lay there before attempting to get up. Here, grab the pole! Jose lowered the pole handle first. There was my friend over me, high on the pier in the blue. I closed my eyes and saw the big barn door once again fly over my head. Get up and grab the pole! As I got myself up on my elbows, I was looking into the shadows under the pier. Grab the pole! The shadows and blackness beyond under the pier sent a chill up my spine. Musty smells engulfed me as a cool breeze swept around me from the darkness. This fear of the darkness under the pier got me on my feet so fast I don't remember standing, just reaching for the pole. The fish was tired but was still on the fight as Jose lowered the rod. It was just out of my reach. I'm letting go. He let go of the tip of the pole and it dropped out into my hands. I caught the handle immediately, felt the struggle of the fish on the line. Hey, Tim, here he comes. The guy with the red shirt. The fellow had been in the public restroom and was slowly walking up the street, about to enter the pier. He was in no hurry as he slowly made his way up the boards to his spot. I started to reel, and before I knew it, Jose had made the jump and was at my side. We headed to the shore, and the fish was just beyond the waves. Hey, what you got there, Sonny? We glanced up, and quickly our attention went back to the fish. The man's speech was slurred. I said, what you got there, Sonny? It was the man in the red shirt. I was too busy fighting the fish to answer. Besides, I was holding his pole, which I thought he would recognize any minute attempt to land his fish. So I was scared. Jose just ignored him too. I was glad Jose was with me. I don't think I would have done it alone, but maybe after all that had happened that day, when I think back, maybe I would have. The man grumbled and sauntered on, tripping and swaying. Borracho, Jose whispered in my ear. What? I said. He's drunk. We just ignored him as he kept strolling past us to his spot. He didn't recognize his pole, but as soon as he finds out where it is, he'll be back, Jose whispered. The fish fought hard, and we found ourselves slowly getting wet. Soon we were up to our knees in the waves as the fish got closer to the shore. There he was, a nice legal halibut, moving gracefully through the foam. Waves splashed up to our waist. The pole bent over. The fish ran. I tightened the drag, reeling and pulling back on the rod, the halibut coming closer and closer. I started backing out of the small waves, and soon I was out. Riding a small wave in like a surfer, the halibut was left on the wet sand as the wash receded. Jose jumped onto the fish and lay down on it, pinning it to the sand, tail flapping and knocking sand in his face. Jose was covered in sand and slime and laughing the whole time. Hey, that's my pole! Damn it, to hell! The drunk fisherman was stumbling back down the pier, stopping just above us. And that's my damn fish! Oh, damn it, to hell! He was leaning over the rail looking down at us, yelling and cursing. When I heard this, it literally scared the piss out of me. But I was so wet, no one, not even Jose, could tell that I was relieving myself in my pants. This made me laugh and shake with fear at the same time. A wave swept in, covering the halibut and Jose, but he hung on to the fish. We were both soaking wet, but we had the fish. The drunk old man stumbled down the pier to the street. Then he attempted to hop over the wall, falling and landing on his head in the sand. He was having a very difficult time making his way through the sand to get to us. We're just helping you, mister, yelled Jose. You just wait there. You just wait there. Damn it to hell. The fish was hooked on the lip, and it was about 24 inches long and 5 pounds. Nice fish, I said. Jose and I were both on our knees in the wet sand staring at the beautiful creature. Damn it to hell, we heard the man above the sound of the waves, slowly making his way across the sand to the shoreline. As we turned to watch him fight the sand with every step, a wave came in, and we were up to our shins in water. And the fish came to life, slapping and flopping in the waves. It spit the hook at us, and before we could grab it, the tail caught some water, and it was gone, back to its home with the receding wave. I had done it. I had caught a halibut. I was so happy. I was happy for the fish. I was happy for Jose. We laughed, and the gulls joined us. That's my fish. That's my pole. Damn it to hell. I hate this sand. Okay.
You want to read more?
Well, no, let's okay. Yeah.
Gail was right. I can smell the salt and the fish and everything.
Taste the fish.
What a wonderful
One that got
work
away.
you've done.
Thank you.
Where did the idea come from to write this?
Oh, well, it took many years, but in the spring of 2007, Marcia Morhart, my friend and mother of 3 of my children, encouraged me, quote, end of quote, to write a story. So I placed my little portable Olivetti typewriter before me, loaded a blank sheet of paper, and stared at it for hours until the story from my memory and imagination moved through my fingers onto the page. And 3 days and nights later, the Pier was born.
Wow. Wow.
So it was a long time coming.
Yeah.
And she was really encouraging me. And, so I was trying to save a marriage, actually. Didn't work, but that's okay. So I took all the experience. I talked with other writers. I talked with Dalton Trumbo and William Saroy and other writers. And they said, Tim, write about what you know about. So I've got lots of experiences, but this one I remember so well from my first fishing memories, which is in the prologue, till I was about 13 when my friend Jose was killed. And so I took all those memories, and I took memories from the Malibu Pier, from the Ventura Pier, from the Gaviota Pier, from the Goleta Pier, and of course from Stearns Wharf, and I incorporated them all. And I used old friends and my young friends, some were combinations of several people, and gave it live. And I also made the fish that big. It's a fishing story.
Yeah, right.
So, you know,
I love
that was the fun part.
Well, I love the fact that you used typewriter and Olivetti.
Yeah.
And if you could just talk a little bit about how you wrote it and like sitting down.
Yeah, well, I had just remodeled the kitchen. All the kids grew up. We have a little house on Hot Springs Road right behind the Mount Carmel Church there. And I made this, I wanted to live in the kitchen, so I remodeled the house and I had some money and I made it so I could live there. The toilet was right there, the bed was there, and the food was there. It was just perfect. And I started a fire and had a few drinks and stared at the paper. And then all these memories started coming back, so I'd just start writing out those first memories. And I took it from my first memories right on through all of them until he was tragically killed. And you always remember fish, especially when the big one gets away.
Yeah.
Or you remember everything. You know, I remember almost every fish I caught, and remember the touch and the feel, and from when I was little to you know, catching the big ones. You know, all over the world. Got fish all over the world.
Yeah.
You sound just like my brother Tim,
Well,
who grew up fishing on the banks of Lake Springfield, Illinois,
oh no kidding.
with a life preserver because he started when he was 4.
That's
to
when I started.
swim.
That's this picture in the front.
And he got enthralled with catching a catfish.
Oh my God.
And Mother told him she would cook a catfish for him when he learned how to clean it.
Oh.
She was not going to clean a catfish.
That's
And he learned by the time he was 7. You know, I remember.
Nail them on a board.
Oh yeah, out on the picnic table.
Yeah, nail them on a
Yeah.
picnic table. Yeah.
Okay, I got one more question, then I'll turn it over to the audience. Jose, your friend,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about him.
Oh, well, it was a combination of several guys, but the sign was you'd snap and go like that. I can't snap anymore, but you'd snap. Hey, Tim. Hey, how you doing? That was the sign back then. You know, that was cool. And we'd all meet up at the fish. Where are the halibut? Or where are they? The bonita or the barracuda or the herring? Or what are we gonna do? And hang out, you know. And, wow, look at that! Or, did you see the giant bass in the cooler? Or you know. And so we just were friends.
Yeah.
He was 3 or 4 years older than I was. Hey, watch my gear. I gotta go down and take a leak or get some popcorn or whatever. And no problem.
Did you
Nobody
meet on
ever-
the pier then?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Well, he was at the junior high school.
Okay.
He was older than I was.
Okay.
And there was a couple other older guys.
Yeah.
With those experiences.
Questions?
Anyway,
Who did the little illustrations?
illustrations.
The little pictures that are in.
Oh, I don't know. John Balkwell, the who helped me with everything. Where did we find those, John?
Different places. Not one particular illustrator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they just seem to fit.
Yeah, we just got things that seem to fit. Yeah.
They just
Sea
seem to
lions.
fit. Yeah, you know, they were there, and they're all in the book. Castagnolas, the fishing, the whole fishing crew, the Castagnolas, and the big sea lions, stealing guys' fish. You'll read about those. You know.
Yeah.
So I just thought they fit. They were nice. I like the first one, the boy with the old man, and then I thought that's perfect. That was
But
me.
was this from a real photo?
Yeah, that's really me learning to fish. That was Carpinteria in 1955. I was 4.
That's sweet.
That's great.
Yeah, just hold the pole and the kelp and just wait.
Questions? More?
No? Okay, great. Well, yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
This is off topic,
Yes.
but I was starting law school when the paper chase came out, and I just want to tell you, you are a perfect protagonist
Thank you.
as a person and an actor. You represent all of us.
Yeah.
There's some melodrama in it, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to report that none of my classmates committed suicide.
Oh God. Good.
But it was you sustained it, and
Thank
it
you.
was really good. You've been good in a
You've
lot.
got a
Great.
paper chase following over
Yeah.
here.
Well, that's great. Well, one thing you should know that James Cagney was supposed to play the part
Oh,
that Houseman got,
Yeah.
but he was too sick. Yeah, we went out to see him, and he just was too sick. So we were really upset about that because we
Wow.
really wanted him to play
Yeah,
that
yeah.
part.
But Houseman was just
Wasn't
Oh,
it wonderful?
Yeah.
And so the story behind that, which you might appreciate, was I really loved the theater and acting and swimming. I was a swimmer. And so, what was it? What was I going to say? Anyway, I forget what I was going
And
to
this
say.
was his acting debut.
Right, yeah, John. So I had auditioned for Juilliard at Santa Barbara High School and was turned down by John Houseman.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I was going to go to Cal Arts, or I was at a Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London, and I couldn't figure it. Anyway, I just ran away after high school and got a job. I got this job. So when I found out it was John Houseman we were flying to New York to see, I kind of was like, oh God, here's the guy that wouldn't let me go to school there. So we went in to meet him, and there he was up on a pedestal talking to him. And like he knew he was going to get the part, and I had the right to choose the actor, so director, really good director. Jim Bridges put his arm. He said, "What do you think? Do you think he'd be good?" And I looked at him. I said, "Nah." Oh, and Jim, and I said, "No, yes, of course, it'd be great." I was so happy, but he got the joke. I had to do it.
There's the interplay. Were you actually kind of playing to each other with that undercurrent of that little?
Oh, it was fun. Well,
Because-
he was so busy the whole time.
Yeah.
He was running school the whole time. When he wasn't acting and in front of the camera, he had his office.
Right.
He was running Juilliard at the same time.
Wow.
But my mom had known one of when he was working for the Mercury Theater. My mom-
Wow.
Yeah, with Orson Welles. My mom had known someone that was very close with Orson, so there was a connection there. But no, it was wonderful working with him. And he said, "You don't need my school." So I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, and so many of the actors in that movie. Oh my God!
Yeah,
It was such a launch.
yeah, it was. And they were most of them from New York. We got to pick them all, like Jimmy Naughton. We got to pick from a play. All got to pick. Ed Herman was in a play. So I was going around to all these Broadway shows saying, "This guy would be good for this part. This guy." He kind of let me pick my study group.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was the last scene impromptu?
Oh no, that was written.
Okay.
Shot that in Malibu. Couldn't you tell from the smog? It wasn't the East Coast. Yeah, no, that was written.
None of my classmates got to meet Lindsay Wagner, just so you'll know.
Oh. It's okay.
Are there any more questions about writing the book?
Are you on a roll? Is this?
No, no. Oh, I'd like to write some more. I just have to be inspired.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a lot of stories. Got a lot of ranch stories. I've been up in Big Sur now. Next year it'll be 50 years I've owned the ranch. I've been up in the Big Sur. An interesting story. My brother Sam and I did a miniseries, East of Eden, for ABC television. And we were invited up to Steinbeck Library in Salinas to read excerpts from To a God Unknown, which has never been made into a film. And that's where I met Tom, his son, and his wife, who wrote the back for me. And Tom let me know that my ranch, the one I bought, is the setting for To a God Unknown, and the valley is the setting. So if you ever read it, it's the Upper Milpitas, the homesteads in the San Antonio River behind Cone Peak. Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting connection.
You'd mentioned
Tom
your
told me that.
association with like Soroyan and
Yeah.
a few others.
That's
and-
Santa Barbara Writers Conference. My mom
That's
was
what
always
I
going.
thought.
She was always dragging me. That's when it was at the Miramar,
Yes.
the old Miramar,
Yes.
and so that's where I got to meet him.
Are you still in touch with writers now, or you?
Well, I've got Peter Block here, my friend Peter Block, and Tom Sanchez, an old friend. You guys know who Tom Sanchez is? Very famous
Fine
writer.
writer.
He's the cowboy in the back there.
When's the new book out, Tom?
Ocean. Oh, is that a secret?
Is that a secret?
Secret.
Okay.
It's a secret. Sorry.
Sounds like a
We'll
secret.
we'll blip
It's
that
really
out.
good. I read it. It's good.
Wow, you got great writers. We also have to. I have to mention a friend of mine here, two-time Olympic gold medalist
Yes.
swimmer,
Yes.
Jeff Farrell, right?
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
so-
I've
So
heard
you
of Jeff
can
Farrell. Los Banos. We called it the plunge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
They still call it the.
Remember?
Yep.
Do they still call it the plunge?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Insiders. Locals.
do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That was the plunge, man. Yeah. the laundromat was right across the street where they had the little mushroom there. Yeah.
So my last question before we start signing. Do you like writing books?
I do. Once I get rolling, it's so
What
much
appeals?
fun. Well,
Yeah.
what appeals is all these characters I get to. I've got all these people here that I remember. Vivian Jones, the old black fisherman on the back. He used to have a place. He wasn't a fisherman, but I used to go see him a lot. My dad trained some hunting dogs for him back in the day. Just all those people. Dr. Shea was an interesting guy. He was a vet, horse vet here, equine. And when he was in the army, he was stationed in the Himalayas on the hump at 19,000 feet. He was buying horses and mules for the United States Army, cutting the larynx and sending them down to General George Stilwell in the Burma because all the trucks were getting stuck in the mud down there. And they had to push the Japanese out. So I got to fish with him in Big Sur and everything. So he was the guy that owned the tackle shop.
Oh wow.
And then the guys in the back that died on the Marie in 1960. I don't know if you guys know that story. 1960, there was a Russian submarine they were tracking.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
And so when I was 8, that was the year before this happened, I got a wetsuit, and Dale Howe made it, so Dale's in the back. I put him and Mike Moropoulos and these guys I got to fish and hunt with. They're the guys that caught the big fish in the fishing story. Yeah, Mike. Yeah. So those were my heroes and my mentors, those guys.
So keep it going.
Thanks.
Will ya?
I will. I'll try.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thanks
and
for-
thank
Thank
you
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Sign some books?
Be happy to.
All right, let's sign some books. Come on up here.
I need you have
One
to
for my brother.
Yeah. Right.